Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of history's most absolutely awe-inspiring stories. Seriously, we're talking about a true epic of tyranny, mind-bending miracles, survival against all odds, and just ultimate faith. This is the journey of Prophet Musa, or as he's known in English, Moses. We're going to walk through this entire timeline together, unpacking the historical events, the really deep emotional struggles, and the profound moral lessons baked right into his path. So, let's get into it. I want to kick things off right out of the gate with a crazy question. How does a baby, literally cast away into a rushing river, grow up to defeat the single greatest tyrant on Earth? I mean, it sounds like pure fiction, right? But this is the genuine historical and spiritual account detailed in our sources. Just imagine being born under a literal death sentence, only to wind up being raised in the very house of the man who ordered your execution. It's wild. Which brings us to Chapter 1, Section 1. The River and the Palace. Okay, to really grasp the sheer, unbelievable, divine trust required here, we kind of have to set the scene. Egypt at this time, it was a massive, lush, powerful civilization ruled by a totally ruthless king, Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was terrified of a prophecy, so he ordered all Israelite newborn sons to be killed on sight. Obviously, Musa's mother was terrified, but as our source text highlights, Allah inspired her with this command: suckle him, and when you fear for him, put him into the river. Do not fear or sorrow. Just, wow. Imagine the desperate courage it takes to place your helpless infant in a basket and just let him go into the rushing waters of the Nile. She did it out of absolute, unshakable trust in the Creator. And what followed was just a completely surreal sequence of events. That little basket, it floated directly to Pharaoh's palace. Musa was taken in and literally raised by the ultimate enemy of his people. He grew up as a prince, experiencing the insane luxury of Egypt, but also seeing the brutal, everyday oppression of his own Israelite family. And one day, his built-in sense of justice just pushed him over the edge. He jumped in to stop an Egyptian from beating an Israelite, struck the Egyptian, and accidentally killed him. That single fatal blow meant Pharaoh's guards were suddenly hunting him down, forcing Musa to flee Egypt in absolute terror. And that leads us to Section 2, Flight to the Desert. So literally overnight, our hero goes from living as a prince in a grand palace to being a terrified fugitive just running for his life. He crosses from the dense, heavily controlled civilization of Egypt out into the wide-open, completely unknown desert of Midian. Now, Midian didn't have castles or massive bustling markets, but it had something way, way more valuable: freedom. The people there didn't wake up every morning terrified of Pharaoh's guards. For Musa, this harsh, hot desert was actually this beautiful sanctuary of peace. And you know, Musa's true character really shines here, even when he literally has absolutely nothing to his name. He arrives in Midian completely exhausted, parched, and alone. But he looks over and sees these two girls struggling to water their sheep at a well because a bunch of other shepherds are pushing them out of the way. And that inherent sense of justice kicks right back in. He just steps right up and helps them. And because of that one single act of kindness, their father, this wise old man, takes Musa in, gives him a job, and even marries him to one of his daughters. So Musa gets to build this quiet, peaceful life for himself, completely off the grid and far away from the chaos of his past. But, as you might guess, destiny wasn't quite finished with him yet. Section 3, the Sacred Valley. Okay, slow down for a second, because this is the most profound, quiet, and monumental turning point in the entire epic. Picture the scene. Musa's traveling with his family through the desert. It is a freezing cold, pitch-black night. They're totally lost, desperately needing warmth and some kind of guidance. Way off in the distance, Musa spots a glowing fire. He tells his family, hey, stay right here, while he goes to investigate. But as he walks up to this fire in the sacred valley of Tuwa, he hears a voice. It's Allah speaking directly to him, telling him to take off his shoes because he is standing in a sacred place. To equip Musa for the massive, frankly terrifying mission ahead of him, Allah gives him miracles. Allah asks Musa, "What is in your right hand?" Musa answers, "It's my staff." He's commanded to throw it down, and the second it hits the ground, this piece of wood instantly transforms into a slithering, living, breathing snake. Then, Allah tells him to tuck his hand into his armpit. He pulls it out, and it's shining a brilliant, blinding white, completely without disease. These mind-blowing divine signs are given to prepare him for one incredibly daunting command: return to Egypt and face Pharaoh. So here we go, Section 4, Confronting the Tyrant. The tension here is just absolutely off the charts. Musa walks right back into the belly of the beast to face the exact man who wants him dead. It is the ultimate high-stakes clash. On one side, you've got Pharaoh's absolute arrogance, just mocking Musa and boasting, "Do I not possess the kingdom of Egypt?" He's totally intoxicated by his own worldly power. But on the flip side, Musa doesn't bother arguing with ego. He argues with divine truth. He just calmly states, "My Lord does not err, nor does he forget." It's this incredible showdown between delusional human pride and undeniable divine backing.
Pharaoh, who is absolutely terrified of losing his grip on the Egyptian people, immediately tries to spin the narrative. He points to Musa's miracles and shouts, "This man is a cunning sorcerer." And to prove it, Pharaoh summons the absolute greatest, most powerful magicians in the entire land of Egypt for a massive, highly public showdown right in the city square.
Imagine this. The square is totally packed. The sorcerers step up and throw down their ropes and staffs, and through this crazy trick of the eye, they look like slithering snakes. The crowd is screaming. But then, Musa steps forward and throws down his wooden staff. It turns into a real snake and literally swallows up every single piece of their false magic. The sorcerers, these guys were the ultimate experts who knew every trick in the book. Instantly recognized, this isn't an illusion. This is real. This is the truth. They immediately dropped to the ground in prostration, submitting to the creator, completely ignoring Pharaoh as he screams violent threats at them. In one single instant, truth completely shattered falsehood.
But Pharaoh? He remains incredibly, stubbornly blind. So Allah sends overwhelming signs to completely batter down his arrogance. Egypt gets hit with a massive, devastating flood. Then swarms of locusts wiping out all the crops. Then lice. Then frogs absolutely everywhere. Even their drinking water turns to blood. And the crazy part is, every single time a plague hits, Pharaoh begs Musa to pray for it to stop, promising to let the Israelites go. And every single time the plague lifts, Pharaoh goes right back on his word. Which brings us to the ultimate climax. Section 5, Parting the Red Sea. This right here is the edge-of-your-seat climax of the entire journey. Under the cover of total darkness, Musa leads the Israelites out of Egypt, but they take a wrong turn and end up completely trapped right on the shores of the Red Sea. As the sun comes up, they look back and there is Pharaoh and his massive, heavily armed military charging full speed right at them. The Israelites fall into absolute despair, crying out that they're doomed. But listen to Musa in this terrifying moment. While everyone else is panicking, his faith is utterly unshakable. He looks at them with absolute conviction and says, "No, but my Lord is with me. He will guide me." Let's break down exactly how this monumental miracle unfolds. Step 1. They are totally boxed in. Deep sea ahead, lethal army behind. Step 2. Allah commands Musa to strike the water with his staff. Step 3. The sea literally tears wide open. The waters rise up on both sides, towering over them like massive mountains, and it leaves 12 completely dry paths for the tribes to walk on. Step 4. The Israelites sprint across to safety. And Pharaoh? He is so blinded by his own arrogance that he blindly charges his entire army right into the sea after them. Once the believers are completely safe on the other side, those watery mountains just crash down, drowning the tyrant and his entire army in an instant. Section 6. Trials of Freedom. Now, you'd probably think this story ends right there, happily ever after, right? But human nature is way more complex than that, and the aftermath really teaches us so much about our own human frailty. So they're free, but they're out in the scorching desert. Yet they receive this incredible divine hospitality. Allah sends literal clouds to follow them around and provide constant shade from the sun. When they get thirsty, Musa strikes a rock and 12 springs of fresh, cool water gush right out. When they're hungry, Allah literally sends manna, which is like this sweet food, and salwa, quail meat, falling right from the sky. I mean, it is literal VIP treatment in a barren wasteland. But here is where we get a massive, crucial warning for all of us. The tragedy of ingratitude. Despite witnessing the parting of the sea, despite eating heavenly food every single day, the Israelites, who were deeply scarred by all those years of enslavement, start acting like spoiled children. They complain they're bored of the divine food and say they want onions and lentils instead. And it gets worse. When Musa goes up Mount Sinai for 40 days to receive divine laws, the people are manipulated by a guy named Samiri into literally building and worshiping a golden calf. And the final straw? When they are told to finally enter the Holy Land, they are just too cowardly to fight for their freedom. They literally look at Musa and say, "You and your Lord go and fight. We're just going to sit right here."
The consequence of this deeply ingrained cowardice is heavy. Because of their lack of conviction, they are condemned to wander completely lost in the desert for 40 years. They wander until that entire generation, a generation whose minds were still mentally enslaved to fear, passes away. This heavy trial actually paved the way for a newly raised, resilient generation to finally enter the Promised Land. Before we wrap up, I really want to briefly highlight this fascinating sort of side quest during Musa's life. Musa, who is this great prophet, is sent on a journey with a wise man named Al-Qadir to learn that even his own vast knowledge has limits. Along the way, Al-Qadir does things that seem just terrible on the surface, like purposefully putting a hole in a poor man's boat. But later, he reveals the hidden divine wisdom behind those actions, like how breaking the boat actually saved it from being confiscated by a completely unjust king. It's this beautifully humbling reminder for us that human comprehension is so limited, and really understanding the divine plan requires immense patience. The epic journey of Prophet Musa isn't just an ancient history lesson, it is an absolute masterclass in the human condition. What we learn is that true freedom requires unwavering faith, immense patience, and trusting the Creator even in totally impossible situations. I mean, think about it. Musa faced the raging Red Sea with an entire army of his back, and his faith never wavered for a second. So it makes you wonder, where in our own lives are we standing at the edge of the water, letting fear overtake our faith? That's a powerful question to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.